Mother-in-law crossed my boundaries again. Now, I'm screaming at her to FCK off in a restaurant. After much progress with Mill to change her ways, I completely lost control of the situation yesterday at dinner. I am still feeling awful. To start my story, yesterday was the hottest day in the year so far. As previously stated in the past story, Mill had wanted to get together for brunch on Mother's Day instead. I offered her lunch on Wednesday, which she declined because she still had full expectations that we were getting together on Mother's Day even though we had already told her no. The conversation to DH went, "Oh no son, we don't have to get together on Wednesday to go to the steak restaurant because we're getting together for brunch on Sunday." She would have normally been jumping for joy that we even agreed to go to the steak restaurant because I really don't like taking Lo there because it's extremely packed all the time. Anyways, then she stated that she was too tired to go that day, and that she would like to go the next day. So DH, Lo and I went to my mom's house for dinner that Wednesday. Mind you, my mother is a night nurse so she has night shifts. She's usually off work in random increments, sometimes 1 day, sometimes 3 days, it just depends. As a daughter I like to so call her off her days up. We had already had dinner with her on Tuesday at a restaurant, and now we were planning to do dinner at her house, and she was going to join us Thursday at the steak restaurant with Mill. The thing about my mom is she listens to my rules. So it's never a chaotic scene with Lo when we are out or in her home. Now the most important part here is that I am full of original content and anxiety, not the real original content but where things have to be done a certain way, if not, I will go into chaotic self-destruct mode and I have a full-on panic attack. Of course my mother acknowledges this because I am her child. Who knows you better than your mother? Exactly. I went over to my mother's house with Lo while DH was at work. I spent time with her and it's generally a good time when I go to my mother's house because I can take a break and let my mom take over with my now 13-month-old. There's very few people who I can completely hand my daughter over to, and be able to relax. Again, it has to be my anxious, new mom feels. A few hours went by and I was considering canceling dinner with Mill, but decided to just go ahead and go. Upon leaving, my mom asked me to install my daughter's car seat in her car as she had removed it to travel. This was the most frustrating process ever. I did not have the strength to pull the buckle tight. The positioning was the worst possible. Keep in mind DH usually is in charge of car seat installation, so I am YouTubing this at this point, lol. Oh, and before may I remind you, it is the hottest day of the ducking year. Temperatures reading around 100 degrees. It may not be hot for all but it was awful for me. Anyways, I digress. Takes about 20 minutes to install and then all of a sudden, my mom and I got calls from Mill and DH, hurrying us up because they were already at the restaurant. Thing I noticed is that Mill is sitting in front of me, DH is sitting next to, and my mother next to me, and of course Lo at the end of the table. Now I'm very particular on how I feed my daughter. When we are in public I feed her with her utensils instead of my hands, and I never let her eat from the table or from the plates with her hands. Call me controlling and crazy but I do this to avoid stress of cleanup. We do messy eating at home, period. And of course, my mother completely understands this and abides by my rules. Now let's backtrack a little. Every time I let Mill even get a chance to feed my daughter, she always wants to let her go at it with her hands and let her do the baby-led weaning method, and make a disaster in our home. Mind you, we don't have a dog so we have to pick up every bit of food that falls on the floor. And every time I even remotely put up a boundary and say something to the extent of, if you were going to feed her, you must use utensils because I don't want to have to clean up a mess and I don't want her eating in this way, she stomps me down by saying, "Oh relax, it's fine, she's having a good time, I'll clean it up. I'll clean it up. It's okay, I'll clean it up." It really infuriates me because I'm being ignored and a mess is being made in my home. And of course, when she's done and has gotten her way, she half-back cleans it. It is so frustrating. Now back to the restaurant. We are at the point of my daughter's life where we can use high chairs. I always put a cover on the high chair, but I have always reluctant to use the high chair around Mill because it gives her the perfect opportunity to feed and feed and feed and feed and feed. We've talked about how my mother-in-law overfeeds my daughter since the very beginning, day one. Anyways, it's so frustrating when she doesn't listen to me because she gets overexcited. This is why she is limited on Lo time. She's like a chihuahua that pees in the house when she gets excited. And to stop, I grab our bib from our bag, which is one of those plastic ones that has the little cup for the stuff that falls. She starts feeding her, spits out water into the bib that falls, and then she starts feeding her bread again. I'm trying to keep my cool, everything's fine still. Then she begins to insist that Lo tries onion blossom, even though she probably won't like it. As suspected, Lo spits out onion blossom into the already soggy bib. Then Mill pulls out a bunch of gifts from her students for teacher appreciation. Why she brought these to the table I don't know. Anyways, so now she gives Lo a teddy bear, even though baby's hands are all dirty with food. Lo throws it on the floor. Funnily enough, how she then keeps force-feeding her bread, to the point where she is trying to breathe. Mill is still putting bread in her mouth. I say then shout us the original poster. She doesn't have a drink, so then Mill tries to straw her some more water, which does not work. I shout us the original poster it now. Then DH goes to my mom's car to get her sippy. We end up all flustered because apparently the air condition wasn't working at the steakhouse. We end up going across the street to Cheddar's, where there is an even longer wait list. We run into a couple of my mom's work friends and she wants to introduce them to her baby, but Mill has already gotten a grasp of her and will not let her go. So when DH goes to get his daughter to meet our friends, Mill will not release her and instead follows behind him. So now we're not introducing our little family, we're introducing our daughter in Mill's arms. The conversation was, my mom saying, "Hi, this is my baby," referring to Tommy. Then I chime in to say, "Hi, this is my husband and this is my baby," referring to Lo, and when I turn around expecting DH, it's Mill. I then corrected myself and say, "Oh, my husband must be looking at the fish aquarium on the other side." Then Mill introduces herself. Awkward. They then cut off the conversation and say, "Okay, we'll catch you later." Anyways, the wait list was too long there, so we ended up going to the Olive Garden. Absolute chaos, I know, probably contributed to all the stress from the day. We walk into the Olive Garden and we sit at a table, set Lo up in the high chair, and we get the most newbie server possible. Poor guy, it must have been his first day. We all order our food, a bit chaotic because my mother is very indecisive. We get our food finally, and at this point Mill starts cutting her plate into tiny pieces to feed to Lo. Even though I haven't asked her to do this, I'm eating my food. I told my husband, "You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and release control, let's see how this goes." Little by little she starts to let Lo start eating from the table with her hands, and this is still okay until Lo begins to get full and starts playing with the food. Lo is 13 months, this girl was throwing food everywhere, flipped her bib upside down and all the food got all over her and in my chair cover, smacking the plate, getting food all over her body and hair, and the scene was just so chaotic. It could not have gotten any worse, but it did. Lo starts to turn red as a tomato. I then asked DH to take her car to her as we don't use public changing tables. Before he could even get out of the booth, Mill takes Lo and my diaper bag and runs to the RR. I am furious. What the fuck is she doing? My mom sees how upset I am and decides to go after her. She comes back 2 minutes later asking for another onesie because apparently Lo soaked her onesie in pee, which never happens. Never. I hand my mama a onesie, they get her dressed, they bring her back, and I'm okay. Surprisingly, I suggest that we relocate to the ice cream shop across the street to get ice cream for Lo. But really for me, so that I can calm down after this chaos. Ice cream is the way to my heart every time. I'm sitting at our table and it's a complete and absolute disaster with food everywhere on our side because of the baby. I said I'm ready to relocate and it's really overwhelming me. At this point, everyone kind of suggests that we stay there to eat the dessert. So finally I've had enough and I stand up and I say, "No, I'm not sitting at this table anymore." I stand in the corner and say I would like to leave now. This has been too much for me. I am on the verge of having a panic attack, and I don't want to be here anymore. To put it away and it is full of food, and it falls all over the floor in front of everybody. Of course my mom, embarrassed, says, "Oh my gosh, that is so rude. My name, how could you make such a mess like that? That is so rude." She then apologizes to the server and says, "I'm so sorry, my daughter made a mess." I was fuming, livid, significant other fucking pissed. I explode and scream, this wouldn't fucking happen if Mila had just listened to my rules. I'm ready to leave. Or give me my baby back. I caused a scene in the restaurant, I'm not gonna lie, and I was really embarrassed for my behavior, but I lost it completely. Then, completely ignoring me, Mil walks out the front door with my daughter towards her car. My mom, myself, and DH follow her and try to break and say goodbye. DH tries to take Lo from her and then she pulls away and says, "No, I'll walk you guys to your car. I want every second I can get with her." She then stalls, putting her in the car seat for about 10 minutes. She says bye and leaves finally, and my mom, DH and Lo drive to my mom's and the car is quiet. And was upset with himself because apparently he didn't know that I was in distress because I have such a good fake persona and can hide it really well. We came up with a code word for him to step in and sit his mother down if needed, because he truly felt terrible for how stressed out I got. And to end the night, we got a text from Mil saying she had the best night of her week, and I just ended the night with saying her best night was my worst. The funniest part is, I had already warmed up to the idea of going to the brunch because bitch Ale wasn't going to be going, but now those plans are so far down at the bottom of the trash I am going to not even give an excuse. I'm just not gonna show up. And when she demands a reason why, I will remind her of her best night of the week and how wrong it went. Lesson learned: say no 1,000 times until they get it. Mil is banned from feeding Lo. No more exceptions, no more broken rules. I am sick of it, and I am sick of being disrespected. Time for a timeout, time to reset expectations. I am very upset with myself for allowing this to happen. Happy Mother's Day weekend, mamas. Stay strong, And keep these just nominals in their lane.